With tight commodity margins and strong demand for summer pasture, Nebraska Extension range and forage specialist Jerry Volesky says some producers may find value in using an annual forage system. Jerry says that would normally include cool or warm season forages and in many cases double cropping annuals. We talked with Jerry recently to learn how this system might benefit an operation.
This past winter, it's been of interest to a lot of producers where they're taking a hard look at some of their cropland and corn, soybean prices, but then also if they have some cattle, the demand for pasture is still really strong, plus the hard to find. And so they're looking at using some of the annual forages for grazing on some of these cropland acres.
What's the big question that producers have when they start to think about this?
Well, there's several questions that they have with things like what should I plant? A lot of times they're looking at a system of different fields or acres so they can have an uninterrupted period of grazing from May through the fall. And so that requires a combination of cool and warm season annual forages that are planted. But then also the key thing for a lot of them is what is going to be the stocking rate or carrying capacity. How many pairs per acre could they graze? And once you have that information, you can easily calculate the number of acres that are going to probably be needed.
Can you explain to me more on the stocking rate, how producers can figure that out, and what it would mean for their operation?
We know for these different annual forages in terms of a hay yield, for example, how much they'll produce, and with those estimates of a hay yield or productivity of, say, oats is planted in the spring, for example, we can back calculate what the potential stocking rate could be in terms of number of head per acre. For example, like oats, we're looking at probably up to 1.5 pairs per acre. That would be the carrying capacity or stocking for a 6-week late May to early July period.
How complicated is the grazing system that you're trying to use? And you're also using a paddock system, meaning you're turning them out into one part of the field and then another, then another.
Right. The grazing management on these is a very important part of the step because we want to be really efficient in the grazing and get the most out of these planted forages. So using some type of rotation within each of the different cool or warm seasons that we might be using is very important.
If you haven't used an annual forage system before or have much experience with some of these grasses, are there anything to keep in mind with fertilization or any potential problems to the cattle that you might find?
Right, and for example, with potential problems, the nitrates or prussic acid is always a concern with a lot of these annual forages. So a person does have to watch out, at least be alert of those. Watch the amount of nitrogen fertilizer in the case of nitrates that is used, or if we have some droughty conditions, if it's on a dryland field. But usually on the irrigated field, if we do the agronomic part of things correctly, the problems can be relatively few.
You mentioned cost. What do we know about the cost to a system like this?
Well, certainly when we're looking at the costs of the seed that we would have to purchase for this, the actual field preparation and drilling of the seeds, it's important that producers do have a hard look at that, kind of estimate what it's going to take in terms of the input cost for the seeding of the annual forages, and then kind of compare that what they expect the value of the grazing that they're going to receive from it to just make sure it pencils out.
UNL's Beef website has more information about planning annual forage systems. You can also find those resources through a link on the Market Journal homepage.